welcome to Getaway Day. My name is Ben Rortvet. His name is Mason.
Nah, I
That's
thought I
just a
was Ben
great name.
Rortvet too. His name is my name too.
Oh, shoot. My name's not Ben Rortvet. My name is Gautam.
No, wait, no, we're both Ben Rortvet.
Oh,
Ben Rortvet, Jingleheimer Schmidt. His name is my name too. You know,
yes.
from that
Thank you.
famous
Thank
song,
you
Ben
for
Rortvet.
that jingle. Yeah.
Yeah.
Um, and today we are going to be talking about a couple of teams that are at a crossroads: the Blue Jays and the Cubs. Um, I thought today would be a good chance to dig into these two teams that have disappointed a lot of fans in multiple countries. And um, before we get started, how are you doing today, Mason?
I'm doing well. I am tired. I just took a nap. And I woke up and it is 8:35 and we are about an hour from sunset still.
Hey, welcome to summer, I guess. It's super hot over here. It was like almost 90 degrees today. Um,
Hey, it's been
and
absolutely gorgeous here. So I was outside working on a truck this morning and it was like 55 degrees for like the first like 2 hours and then it got hot. It's like,
ah, yeah. But yeah, that means that we are in the thick of baseball season and summer season. So
yeah, we've
let's get
completed 69 games of this regular season.
69 games, which is, did you say there's 57% of the season left?
Correct.
Okay, so where we stand today, the Toronto Blue Jays are sitting in fourth place in the division in the AL East. They're 33 and 35, and they have a minus 35 run differential. And you know, just from that surface level, it just doesn't feel like things have been going smoothly for the Blue Jays. And some of it kind of feels like a continuation of last year's team. They have not done a good job of putting up runs, even though on paper, this team has kind of been thought of as a top tier offense. And that's what they were, a couple of years ago. But over the last couple of years, the offense has almost disappeared. And then pitching has been its own struggle this year.
Yeah,
So
they're a
overall,
bottom third pitching team right now if you look purely at runs allowed on the season. So, it's been equally, maybe not equal, but it's been a pretty big issue as well.
yeah. So do you want to dig in on either one of those sides first? I think we'll have time to get into all of it.
I think the place that I kind of want to start is the pitching because the pitching for this team should be good. They've returned their entire pitching staff from last year. In Jose Barrios, Yusei Kikuchi, Kevin Gausman, Chris Bassett. And then their fifth starter's kind of been up in the air, but even last year that was kind of the case. But instead, this year, Kevin Gausman is not the same guy that he's been. He threw 69 and 2/3 innings over 13 games. His strikeout rate is way down. His walk rate is still pretty high. And he's got a 4 ERA, and he's getting it. Where's his actual average against? Because I want to. Opponents are hitting 258 against him with a 318 BABIP. So it's like,
Yeah,
he's
and my thought on Gosman is that he's had some dominant starts. I think he had a complete game in either his last start or two starts ago, but then other starts he just seems like he's getting crushed. And he's never been a guy that's been able to like limit barrels and hard contact. That's always been kind of in his profile, but he was always a guy that got tons and tons of strikeouts and whiffs on his splitter, and that pitch has not really been there for him this year. And maybe it's just the nature of the splitter being something that's difficult to get a handle on, and but also maybe it's just we've seen the end of peak Kevin Gausman. He's like on the decline of his career now.
Yeah, so he's had 2 games this season where he's gone 7 innings or more. Most recently being on his last start 4 days ago against Oakland, in Oakland. That game, he had 10 strikeouts. He only gave up 5 hits. It was a complete game shutout. Like, he pitched pretty well, but then again, it's Oakland. So it's like,
Yeah. So it's like you got to hope that is a positive sign, but yeah, it's Oakland. We got to see it against some other competition too.
the other team where he pitched well was against the Dodgers back in April. On the 28th of April, he threw 7 innings of 5-hit, 1-run ball with 5 strikeouts. So, and I mean, the low strikeouts there, it's the Dodgers. That kind of also makes sense. So he does have some good starts scattered throughout the year, and he's pitched at least 6 in every game since May 18th. So, like, there are positive signs here. Things are trending in the right direction. It was kind of an early season blow up. Because, like, he had back-to-back 6-run games. He had a 7-run game on the 11th of May and in 3 innings, and then ever since then, he's been pretty solid.
Yeah. And kind of just branching out into the other starting pitchers, I think Chris Bassett is just doing what Chris Bassett pretty much always does after he started out kind of rocky. Yusei Kikuchi's been pretty good this year. Jose Barrios has been almost a revelation. He's been pitching better than, or at least results wise, he's been better than he has been in a long time. Uh, Maybe best version of Jose Barrios we've seen. So like you kind of look at all those pieces, you're like, oh, okay, this is not that bad. But I think it's just the pitching environment that we're in today, where what we're calibrated for is like these to be okay numbers, but in this year, you got to be pitching like exceptionally for it to make a difference, and it's not showing up in like ERA, for example, where the Jays are bottom of the league, and maybe that's bullpen related. Maybe the starters are not really the problem.
Well, so what I'm looking at right now is it looks to be that I mean, Kikuchi has been kind of touched up more recently than anything else with back-to-back 5+ run games. But it seems like most of the starting rotation has actually had a really, really rough start where just they were consistently giving up 4, 5, 6 runs. And then like basically since early May, they've just been pretty pretty locked down solid, only giving up like 1 run here or there, 2 runs here or there. So it kind of seems like it's a tale of 2 parts of the season almost for the Jays starting pitching staff. So looking at like the fact that they're top 10 in runs allowed for most runs allowed, they're definitely trending in the right direction there, coming back to the middle of the pack. But like, what's been their problem recently then? Has it been like, has it been their bullpen? Like,
Yeah, I don't think the bullpen's been very good. So starting with their closer, Jordan Romano, he's out with an injury right now, but when he's actually been pitching, terrible, just terrible stuff. Jimmy Garcia having a good season, but I don't think there are a lot of good like good stuff has not been happening to the Blue Jays in their bullpen, and I think that is a key area that they could improve, and every team can improve their bullpen, right? For the most part, um, they seem like they're in a maybe especially bad spot there, but I would not say that that's like the number one problem with this team right now.
Yeah, so it looks like 44 let's see, that's plus 50, so about 100, 120, 168, they've seen, let's put it this way. They've seen almost 300 innings or 250 innings from their bullpen. And they
have a 4.75 ERA in the bullpen, 4.97 FIP. I think that says it all.
They have 3 bullpen guys with an ERA less than 3 in almost 300 innings. So yeah, this has been their Achilles heel for sure.
And it's weird because I kind of had the impression, and I'm clearly mistaken here. I thought the Blue Jays had a good bullpen because they had a good bullpen last year. And looks like guys like Tim Meza and who's the other guy that was like really good? Oh, it was Eric Swanson, right? Eric Swanson was amazing last year. And this year he's only striking out 14% of batters and has a uh, he has a 9.22 ERA. I was looking at the wrong line there. Sorry. He has a 15% strikeout rate and he has a 9.22 ERA.
And he's not even on the big league roster.
Correct.
So yeah, I don't know. This is just kind of weird. Like seeing Jordan Romano struggling. He's on the IL right now, but like in the 15 or 13 innings that he pitched, 14 innings that he pitched before going on the IL, he was just not good. He did manage to get 8 saves, but they were not smooth.
He was giving up runs every time out, I felt like.
Yeah. And so like Jimmy Garcia has been good, but one guy in the bullpen that you can trust is not great. Like especially when your starting staff struggled for the first month and a half. Now they've figured out what they're doing and you only have one guy you can turn to. Like that's doesn't make
for. I don't
for
where they stack up in the league, but this feels like one of the worst bullpens in the league right
now. Let's see. I could tell you in
actually. Yeah.
See.
The other team we're going to talk about today is going to be right there with the Jays, I think, at the bottom of the bullpen ERA. Okay, so they're 5th from the bottom with a 4.75 ERA for their relievers. The only teams worse are Colorado, LA, Angels, the White Sox, and Texas.
Dang. Yeah, that's not good. They have a minus 1.2 combined bullpen WAR, which I believe is the worst in the league by about a half a game. And sorry, I did math wrong. I thought it was like 289 innings. It's 229. So a little less innings than I thought, but still not good. Collectively, they walk like 3.5 batters per 9 innings. What is that in actual rate? That is.
It's 9% walk rate, 20.6% strikeout rate. And they're giving up tons of home runs as well.
Yeah, so they're bottom 4 in strikeout rate. They're right in the middle in walk rate, but yeah, this is rough.
Mm-hmm. And I don't even think that's like the main focus on this team. I think that would have to be the offense, which is not produced now for a couple of years. And where did the power go with this team? We're talking about guys, huge names: Vladimir Guerrero, Bo Bichette, George Springer. They are 5th from the bottom in home runs hit this year.
Their slugging percentage is 6th from the bottom, which kind of goes hand in hand, but like it just goes to show you that like this team is right on par with Pittsburgh and Washington and Seattle, who has also had major struggles at the plate this year. And
Yeah.
they're really not too much ahead of Chicago and Miami as far as like slugging on the year. And yeah, you're right. Like, this is a team that has Vladdy. This is a team that has Bo. And Vladdy had what, the 46 home run season a couple years ago?
Mm-hmm.
A guy with prodigious power, but seems to only be able to hit like line drives and ground balls with it. And he, in and of himself, is kind of a weird case study that I think would be interesting to dive into, but I'm sure many people have done that time and time and time again. But
I think he gets. I'm just going to jump in and say I think he's getting kind of unfairly dinged for not hitting like 50 homers a season. I mean, if you look at where he is, he's a guy that pretty much averages, like, he's not consistent from year to year in the home run total, but he averages like 30 homers a year. What's the problem with that?
yeah, there's absolutely no problem with that. And he's a guy that gets a pretty significant number of doubles. He averages about 30 doubles a year, hitting about 275 with a pretty good number of base hits and about 100 RBIs. So
Yeah, he's a
30
very
home
very good hitter.
30 home runs, 100 RBIs is like the that's like the standard that Nolan Arenado was held to for a long time, and everyone thought he was a great hitter.
Yeah.
So it does seem unfair that we're sitting there and saying, well, Vlad's not hitting 50 homers, so what's going on? Now, I will say Vlad right now is on pace for 18 home runs this year.
Yeah.
So he is a little bit low on the season. But he's also boosted his average up. His on base percentage is up. Like he's hitting better so far this year than he did last year.
Mm-hmm. That's for sure. Yeah.
But he still just doesn't have the home runs.
Mm-hmm. And
He's
nobody
walking.
has home runs on this team.
Yeah.
Like,
So,
Dalton Varsho is our home run leader. He has 10. Then behind him, we got Vlad with 7. Davis Schneider has 7. Danny Jansen has 5. And then you've got guys that have 5 or fewer home runs. They are not going to succeed if this keeps up like this. Do you have any theories for like why this team is like underperforming to this level with the names they have?
well, I could scapegoat it.
Okay, go ahead.
Don Mattingly is teaching them to play 80s and 90s baseball.
He's teaching them Marlins baseball.
Well, I was just thinking 80s and 90s. Like, I'm going to give him credit and say that he was a good manager with the Dodgers. And then he went to Miami, and we all know that franchise is just an abyss. So I'm willing to say that there were some problems with the organization in Miami that kind of kept his teams from succeeding. And he was a good player in his own right. So I'm just going to say he's teaching them small ball, put the ball on the ground, and then try and have Vladdy run out infield singles.
To be honest, I don't think that's the worst theory I've heard. I think it's actually really interesting that you say that, because I'm thinking about Don Mattingly, the player. He was like a really, really good batting average hitter, hit for a lot of contact, but he didn't have a whole lot of power. And that is reflected in like the way the Blue Jays have been playing this year. They don't have a bad strikeout rate. It's actually good. It's one of the better strikeout rates in the league. They just haven't had any power, as we've been talking about. It's like they've turned into the Guardians this year, which is bizarre with this personnel. But I think we probably overestimate the impact that a hitting coach can have on a team. But maybe that's literally his philosophy. Like, poke the ball the other way. Don't try to pull it. Don't try to reach your power because you just want to make as much contact as possible. And that's not working out this year with the ball traveling not as far.
Yeah. What do you think, Mook? Got any opinions on the matter? I don't know what that means, but she does have opinions on the matter.
Yeah, she doesn't want to tell us, but it's a mystery. It feels like a mystery at this point. Um, if you're the management of the Toronto Blue Jays, what do you do here as we sit in the middle part of June with the season? Because you're not going to catch up in your division. You're basically playing for a wild card. There's plenty of teams ahead of you, but you're clearly not out of it
Yeah,
given the state of the league.
they're 15 back in the division, but they're only 3 back of a wild card.
Yeah.
So yeah, you're done for in the division. The Yankees have all but locked it up. So, well, I say all but locked it up. Baltimore's up there too.
Yeah.
But between those two, the division is locked up. So really, there's 2 wild card spots that you're vying for. You're 6 back of the second wild card, 3 back of the first. So, I mean, you have to score runs, like especially with the bullpen being kind of as bad as it has been. The bullpen is going to go in waves. Like it's going to have a hot streak at some point. That's just how those things work. The starting pitching staff has been kind of recovering from their early season woes. So you have to figure out how to scratch runs across. And like this team does not have a lot of steals that I can see. Like this team doesn't have what?
They're near the bottom in steals.
Yeah,
They feel like an old team to me. They've got old players like Justin Turner, Kevin Kiermaier, those were basically their 2 big signings in the offseason. Re-signing Kevin Kiermaier, bringing in Justin Turner. Third base has been a major issue for them, going through all kinds of guys to find someone to fill that position. They've even tried Vlad there. Um,
yeah. So you're bottom 10 in steals, bottom 10 in average. You're bottom 5 in home runs. So you're not playing small ball effectively. You're not playing big ball effectively. So it makes sense that you're not able to score any runs and support the pitching that you're getting. So something needs to change here. Like I don't know that firing the hitting coach is necessarily going to fix anything. That seems to be everyone's solution every time that the team isn't hitting, is just fire the hitting coach and see if a different voice fixes something.
Yeah.
But I don't know, man. This is weird. Like
they're in a slump, and it's not even just a slump anymore because it's continued over from last year. And um, I just see an old team. I see a team that's on the decline, but also I don't think they're going to give up. They're not going to sell off Vlad or Bo because they have those guys for another year. It doesn't make sense to just throw in the towel and trade those guys away. They're going to basically try to reload this offseason, I think, and go for it one more time.
okay, so Vlad is. Yeah, I was just curious, based on something you said earlier about maybe the philosophy is poke it the other way a little bit more. And while you can't necessarily say that like Vlad specifically's oppo field rate is incredibly high compared to usual, it's 24.4 versus like an average of like 23, or 20 mid 22%, but his pull rate is way down, on the scale of like 6%. So like he's not pulling the ball. His ground ball rate is up 7% from last year. And his hard hit rate is also back up to the second highest it's ever been. So he's grounding the ball hard up the middle more often than ever, which tends to be where a guy ends up in a shift, is basically right behind second base. If not, you're hitting it directly back at the pitcher. So I would be curious to dive into other players and see kind of what their batted ball trends are this year compared to years past. But there could actually be something to that. So I don't know if it's guys are like intentionally trying not to pull the ball, but if that's the case, go back to pulling the ball. Like it's been proven to work. Like, you're not getting the extra base hits from trying to spread the ball around the field. So why not sell out for power? If you're not getting the benefits of being patient and taking your pitches
and
to
making
poke a single,
contact.
yeah, and making contact.
Because they make contact at an above average rate, but they're still not even hitting for batting average because the power just isn't there. The oomph behind the swings is not resulting in hits and runs. So yeah. Um anyways, um I think, like I was saying, I think they're gonna kind of soft reset here. They're not gonna give up on the season, but they're also, there's no way that they go all in and try to make a major trade with the trend of this club right now, for this year at least. I think they'll be going for it again next year. There's no reason not to.
Ooh, I'm looking at Bo's batted ball numbers. Ooh, not good.
Never look at those. He's a unique player.
Yeah,
He finds
his
interesting ways to get hits.
his soft contact rate is the highest it's ever been. It's at almost 20%. He's usually around 13 or 14%. So he's just not getting hard contact. He is hitting it up the middle more. And all of his are fly balls. So dude's getting under it, hitting it straight to center field, and isn't getting lucky with the bloop from the having no power behind his contact. That is unfortunate. Yeah, I don't know. It almost feels like there's just a collective like a collective weight, just a mental block that all these hitters have right now, especially the stars on this team. And like, it's put this team in a position where there's rumors that they're listening on packages for Bo and Vlad, which seems like one of the stupidest things you could do, does it not? Like, those are two
Yes.
players that you're not going to replace, period. Like, they may not be Shohei Ohtani. They might not be like Mike Trout in his prime, like, level right now. The hype was there for those guys, and they do have the talent to do it. I mean, Bo's only 26. Vladdy's only 27. Is he also 26? Like,
He's
these
about
are
the same age, yeah.
these are young guys with incredible talent who are not yet in their prime. They've got like 2 more years on Bo and 1 more year on Vlad. So like,
They're,
if they're
they're both free agents after 2025.
oh, they are, okay.
Yeah.
So they're both free agents after next year. But like, these are like your fans' live or dies. Bo and Vlad are like, they're the most talented guys on your team. They're the fan favorites on the team. You have the money to pay them. It kind of seems like they want to stay in Toronto. So listening on offers to them doesn't really make a whole lot of sense to me.
Yeah,
At the same time, you suck. So how do you
the
fit?
fact that they're under contract for another year makes me think, if this continues a year from today, then you got to think about moving them in their walk years for sure. But
Yeah.
for now, I think it should be off the table. They shouldn't even consider it.
Yeah. So then do you bring in outside help? Is that the move?
I think you can make some small moves, like thinking like a GM. This would not be a team that I'd be supporting. Like, I wouldn't support going all in with this team because I just don't feel like they're that great of a team. But I'm not selling either. Like, I'm just holding steady, making a couple minor moves, maybe to the bullpen, maybe another bat that can help a little bit.
So would you make an offer on Luis Robert? Would you make an offer on Garrett Crochet? Both guys who are very much available.
See, that's another aspect of this, right? I don't feel that the Blue Jays have the chips to make this move, and I don't think they're going to want to either.
I mean, that's fair, but in a perfect world, assuming they could, would that be the type of move that you think would help turn this team around, or is that just basically taking uh basically taking the star shape and putting it in the square hole because it fits, but it's not the right shape? Know what I mean? You don't watch TikTok, but everyone else knows what I mean. So
Like you're talking to me,
yeah, but you're not the important one here.
clearly.
But like, are those moves that would actually help if they could make them, or does that just seem like a big band-aid that you're putting on a bullet wound?
I mean, those specific guys, no, it's definitely not. It's more than a band-aid because those are not rental players. You're not mortgaging the farm system uh, to go out and get like one year guys. Those are multi-year guys that could have huge impact on the team even in the future. So yeah, if you can do it, you do it, but the cost is going to be astronomical in this market. All right. We've talked about the Blue Jays for a lot of time. Let's talk about the Cubs, who have some similarities to the Blue Jays, but not really. I mean, it's just more the expectations for both these teams that are coming into the season and the way that they've performed well below those levels makes them kind of interesting teams to talk about here today. With the Cubs, they started out really hot. They had a really good month of April. Um, they kind of keeping pace with the Brewers at the top of the division, and then everything seemed to just go wrong in May, especially with their offense, where became one of the worst offenses in the league over the month of May. They seem to be ticking back up a little bit here. Starting pitching has stayed strong throughout most of the year. The surprises for me with this team have been their defense, which has taken a major step back from last year, and base running, which was really, really awesome last year, and it just hasn't been the same. And those are kind of things that you think will be more stable than other stuff because it's like how how much can your defense fluctuate from year to year? It doesn't feel like a lot. Of how much can your base running really change? But this team's not the team that showed up in 2023. Those were the strengths of the team, and now they're like weaknesses. And then with their offensive struggles, it's been it's been pretty rough actually for the Cubs over the last month plus.
Yeah, so just my um, face value looking at the lineup opinion without looking at any kind of numbers or anything like that. This is a team that in general I'm not too worried about. I think it will fix itself in time. Um, a little bit of it. There's been various injuries that you guys have had to fight throughout the year that have not made things easy. Um, like in the pitching staff, Justin Steele went down for a bit. That wasn't great. Dansby missed some time. Nico missed some time. Belly missed some time. Saya missed some time. Like,
Yeah, everybody's missed some time.
yeah, give a big name on the Cubs. They've missed time. And so I think a little bit of it is probably just that they're out of sync. And I realize it's not a team sport in like the sense of like basketball or soccer, but there is something to be said about like the team mentality around like when one person's out or two or three, which has happened to them at some points this year, everyone else feels like they have to perform higher than they usually would to make up for that. Then you start selling out, you start doing whatever, and things spiral. And it's the physical manifestation of a depression doom spiral is what that is. And I kind of think that this is a team that has suffered from that a couple of times. Like when that happens on the hitting side, then the defense tends to fall off. The base running tends to fall off. Like they're all linked, and I do think it's mostly a mental thing. But like this lineup, Cody B, Saya, Nico, Dansby, those 4 guys, I am not worried about, period. Long term, they're good to go. I think that it's just a matter of ups and downs. Christopher Morel, I don't know. Maybe that's a youth thing, but it seems like he's kind of the same peaks and valleys that he's been since he's come up. I don't think he's necessarily the third base solution.
Yeah, no, that one's an interesting one with Morel because they've given him runway to play third base. Basically said, go take it. We know that it's going to be a struggle, but here we are 2.5 months into the season, and he's rated out as the worst defensive third baseman in the league. And Craig Counsell is already like talking about the need for the Cubs to find either an internal or an external alternative to Morel. So it's putting the guy on blast. It's like, guy, you gotta step up your game on defense, or you're about to lose your job to someone. Whether that's Matt Shaw in the minor leagues, whether that's going out and trading for someone that can play the position at a better level. But Morel is like he's such an interesting player in that there's so many things that he does really well. He hits the ball super hard. He's actually improved his discipline and not chasing as many pitches, striking out way less than he has uh, his first 2 years in the league. So those are all positive signs. I think ultimately he's going to end up being a really good hitter, but it remains a question whether he can ever have a defensive position. Maybe he just ends up being a DH. Who knows? But it is nice to hear you have some faith in the Cubs right now because you've kind of got an outside perspective while I see this team day in, day out. And I say, uh, Dansby can't hit, and um, Bellinger is not the same guy that he was last year, and Seiya can never seem to put it together.
So everything that I'm seeing from the Cubs is exactly what the Cardinals went through in April. And then we saw how the Cardinals did in May, and our superstars still aren't hitting like themselves. Mm-hmm. So, like a team that has legit superstars still in their prime, I have a lot more faith in. So they'll be fine. Right now, I do think second place in the division is going to end up being theirs. They'll be a couple games above 500. It'll all shake out in the end.
So you see this team basically being a wild card?
Yeah. Yeah, right now, unless the Brewers really falter, I don't see anyone taking them over. So, but yeah, I see this being a wild card team. I think that third wild card spot could actually end up being under 500 in the NL this year. So,
I guess I'm surprised that you called some players on the Cubs superstars in their primes. Like, who are you talking about exactly? Because I don't see any superstars on.
Mostly team. Belly. I think Dansby, his pedigree is really, really high. I think he, as far as like the Cubs roster, if you were to say that you had to have a superstar on the team, it would be Belly. And
yeah, sure.
Dude's still only 29, and he came off one of his better seasons of his career last year. It seems like the change of scenery has been really, really good for him. And I kind of do think that he is back to closer to that player than he was, or than he is the player he was the last few seasons in LA. But then I see Dansby and Nico, just that double play duo. As a collective, I would say is a superstar. You take one of those guys, no. Both of them combined, I would say yes.
Well, that's the thing about superstars, they fit into one player.
Yeah, but no, this is two players that make up a superstar.
yeah, that's probably what Jed is saying.
Yeah, I think so.
Superstar, he just plays in our whole middle infield.
Yeah, yeah,
but yeah,
sorry, I meant to say black hole. It sucks. Yeah. It sucks up all the balls. There's no balls to get through. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, I'm feeling down on this team right now, but I agree. Yeah, Belly's a star, but they need another guy to either step up, what's Thea or Dansby, um, or they need to go out and get a big bat, which seems like something they could actually do this year, assuming this downward spiral doesn't continue and things get away from them in the next month or so. But if they can at least just stick around 500, maybe have a hot stretch, then they can convince their team to kind of go out and get a big bat. Like who is that? Pete Alonso, maybe? I mean,
Could
that
be
would be a
Pete.
perfect fit for this team.
There was a rumor the other day, right after Vlad was supposedly available for the right package. There was a rumor
Right.
that the Cubs were talking about Vlad. Which, if that's the case, I'm not really 100% sure how the defensive positioning shakes out if you move Michael Busch to third and have Vladdy play
Yeah.
first. But I mean, they would figure it out.
They would figure it out.
So, but the other thing that actually gives me some hope with this team, especially compared to the Jays that we just talked about, is like the Jays starting pitching staff has been figuring it out recently. The Cubs starting pitching has not been a problem, period. Like Shota is insanely good. Justin Steele, I mean, he was hurt for a little bit. I don't know how he's been doing since he came back, but before he was hurt.
Basically rounding into form. He was like looking really good recently.
Okay. Yeah, that's kind of what I expected from him. Javier Assad, the ass man, has been really good. And then, I mean, Jordan Wicks and Jameson Taillon, as long as they can hold it together, like, you're good from a starting pitching standpoint. So, like, I do think that this team is in a better position than the Jays, even though right now, offensively, they're in the same spot.
However, we got to talk about the bullpen. Their bullpen is terrible. It's so bad.
Yeah, I didn't want to
And
talk about that.
we talked about the Jays bullpen for 10 minutes.
Yeah.
So the Cubs bullpen, um, they're missing Julian Merriweather. They're missing Adbert Alzolay, and um, Hector Neris has kind of assumed the closer's role, and he's been just painful to watch. Walking ridiculous numbers of batters and kind of making every save opportunity a nightmare to watch. He blew a save yesterday, gave up a walk-off home run to Brandon Lau. They need help in a major way because there's like not a lot of good options beyond Mark Leiter at this point.
So the Cubs have the 5th highest walk rate in the bullpen in the majors.
Mostly Hector Neris.
Yeah. They are ahead of only Colorado, the Mets, the White Sox, and the Rangers, which kind of surprises me. But strikeout rate, they're fine. Average against, they're kind of in the middle of the pack. Like I kind of think it's probably just the having base runners on from all those walks is kind of the problem. Is it just from a face value look? Like it doesn't really seem like too many hits off you guys, yet you're 24th in whip. So yeah, the walks are killing you.
Oh, geez. And speaking of the devil, Hector Neris is coming in for a save right as we speak.
Oh. So now what I'm curious, what is the team FIP 412 for the bullpen team FIP? Puts them at 22nd in the league. I was hoping to find their expected ERA and just see if it was.
I mean, the FIP is better than the ERA, so you can say that they're doing some things right, like you mentioned the strikeout rate and not really giving up too many home runs. I mean, that's a good sign.
Yeah.
It
Yeah,
might just be a case of some bad sequencing and just the walks that are going to kill you. If you walk a lot of guys, you are going to pay for it eventually.
yeah. Yeah, and the ooh, where's this at? Okay, here's the other thing. When they have runners on, they're one of the worst teams at keeping them on the base paths to close out the inning. So like that's the other problem is that they 68% left on base rate, which is fifth worst
Oh,
behind the
really?
Angels,
That's really interesting.
Pittsburgh, Detroit, and Colorado.
Do you know what team's first in that stat
That would
with
be
the highest?
Milwaukee with 78%. So 10% more batters being left on the base paths,
Yeah, that's
limiting
quite a
damage.
spread.
Yeah. And like so 68 there's like a large grouping of teams that are 68 to like between 68 and 70%. Like
I was gonna say I always think of 70% as being standard. That's your average for left on base percentage.
yeah, so there's 11 teams that are under 70% and 7 teams that are between 68 and 70. So, but the league average this year is about 71. But
Um,
let's say over the course of 162 games, that could lead to like what? That'd be like 12 or 13 runs potentially, or would it be more than that?
it'd be a lot more than that, I think.
50 runs?
I don't know. Probably. I feel like Hector Neris has given up like 50 runs this season.
I'm actually curious. Let's find out how many runs Hector
No, he
Neris has given
definitely
up.
hasn't. He gets really lucky somehow. Doesn't give up a million runs, but
Hector Neris has given up 6 million runs.
yeah, that checks out.
Uh, runs. He's given up 11,
Okay.
all earned, and he has 18 walks in 24 innings.
Oof.
Yeah.
Yeah.
He does have 24 strikeouts in 24 innings.
Uh, he just gave up a bomb. So, and it was to Jose Caballero of all people.
Oh,
Yeah.
my guy, what are you doing?
Yeah.
Ugh.
That's why we need another reliever. So, I think you are solidly on the side of the Cubs are not gonna throw in the towel here. They're not like trying to sell or anything. They're
No,
actually should be a team that's closer to the strong buy category and need to
they're
like go for it this year.
they're underperforming right now, and there are some pretty significant upgrades that they could make at a few key places. Bullpen being one, third base being another, and but outside of that, like I do think you're going to see some natural regression to the mean from a lot of your other players. I think that May is just kind of a dead month. Is if they're showing signs of life now, I think by July they'll be back to normal. So, and it's not like the Central is going to be that hard of a division to stay in the thick of.
Yeah, that's certainly a key point because if they can't compete there, then you know, no, they can compete because they are in that division, and no other team is really gonna push them that much. I feel like they're all just muddled together.
Yeah, you're pretty much guaranteed to win at least 50% of your games in the Central. And then if you can win your other games, you'll be fine.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah, so that's the Cubs, that's the Jays, and we hope you found this conversation interesting because I did. Uh, and thank you for talking me off the ledge about the Cubs that they're going to be fine by July.
yeah, remember how you keep talking me like off the ledge, but like in the I'm going to fall to my
The
death
other
side about the
way.
Cardinals? Yeah. This is what friendship is. What you're doing to me is just mean.
Yeah. All right, I'll work on that for next week, and we'll talk to you then.
If you enjoy the podcast, please subscribe on your favorite podcasting app or YouTube to make sure you don't miss any future episodes. Join the conversation on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, and TikTok at Getaway Day Pod. If you enjoy card collecting, check out our sister YouTube channel at Getaway Day Cards.